Welcome, friends, family, frenemies, supporters, listeners, donors, staff, and amazing partners to the Charlotte Talks 25th anniversary celebration. I will be your mistress of ceremony this evening, and my name is Frenchie Wilson Brown. I hail to you from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but I have been in Charlotte since 1987, so therefore, this is considered my home. I am so grateful that you spent your Thursday evening with us. I promise you will be excited, you will be elated, and you will be ready to educate other people about Charlotte Talks after we go through the evening. So let's talk a little bit about Charlotte Talks. What is WFAE? Most of you in the audience, you already know what it is, but let me just share a little history to you. WFAE's mission is journalism that informs, enriches, and inspires. WFAE is a major source of news and information for the Charlotte region and one of the country's leading public radio stations. Yes, it is. Give it up. And in case you didn't know or couldn't read it offline like I did today when I copied it right here, WFAE reaches over 200,000 listeners. Wait a minute. That's weekly. Each week, over 200,000 listeners each week, and they offer a broad range of award-winning national, international, and regional news from the National Public Radio. So, what? Frenchie, we're here, thanks, you can read, you can copy, paste, all of that. What else do we need to know about WFAE? Well, let me tout their horn a little bit because I hear that they're very modest. And they don't really go around telling you all the great things that they've done. So let's just talk about what they've done in 2023. And keep in mind, we still got 2.5 months left in the year. WFAE names Jadon Marshall as its next president and CEO. You're going to hear from her shortly. And I believe they made the right choice because Miss Jadon is putting us on the map because she was recognized as one of 50 influential women for 2023. Give it up, sis. Yes, yes. Their Falling Short series won National Edward R. Murrow Award. They were recognized with 6, not 4, not 5, but 6 Green Eye Shade Awards. Now, what is a Green Eye Shade Award? Do I have to wear green eyeshadow for that? Got it going on. And they have won 3 regional Murrow Awards, including overall excellence. Let's give it up for WFAE. I now want for you to join me in welcoming 2 amazing people to the stage. One you've already heard me speak of, Miss Jadon Marshall. She is the president and CEO of WFAE and previously served as the organization's chief content officer and executive vice president, EVP. Jadon has held numerous national news organizations and roles, including the Washington Post Digital, EverydayHealth.com, BelieveFirst.com, and the Center for Cooperative Media at Montclair State University. She serves on the boards of Greater Public and the National Trust for Local News. She attended Harvard University, through the Neiman Fellowship, and graduated from Howard University, where she continues to mentor aspiring journalists. Then we also got to recognize the board chair. He's been in the role now for about a year. Chris Ciccoletti is WFAE's board's chair and a managing director at another bank outside of the bank that I work for. He is with U.S. Bank. We're all here together. I love you for it. But if you look at, okay, I'm going to take that back. Okay, he's with U.S. Bank. In U.S. Bank's credit fixed income group, his industry is responsible for the span of insurance, consumer, and retail and healthcare industries. Chris and his wife were avid listeners of KCRW and KPCC Public Radio in Southern California. Now in Charlotte, their passion for public radio is shared by their teenage daughters. The whole family follows the news and human interest stories produced by WFAE and NPR. Please join me in welcoming Jadon and Chris to the stage.
Thank you, Frenchie. Good evening. I'm Jadon Marshall, President and CEO of WFAE. I want to thank our sponsors and each of you for joining us tonight to come out to celebrate 25 extraordinary years of Charlotte Talks with Mike Collins. But before we do, I want to acknowledge that this is a difficult time for many of us to celebrate because of what's happening in the world around us. At times like these, it's important for us to embrace the hope that we, our communities, and the greater world can realize peace, joy, and equity, or resilience until that day comes. So for tonight, I hope that we can all join together in finding a measure of joy as we celebrate a program that has been so essential to giving voice to the issues, people, and places that define the Charlotte region. Charlotte Talks, under the direction of Wendy Herkey and Mike Collins, seeks to create a civil and safe space for civic dialogue. These conversations not only inform us, but they challenge us, they inspire us, and they make us believe that we can be better. So thank you to Mike and Wendy and the Charlotte Talks team, past and present, for your dedication and commitment to serving this community.
Thank you, Jadon. And look, I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm really honored to be here in this capacity. And all of that silliness that was talked about my family and I about being avid listeners and consumers of NPR data, it actually is all true. I want to thank all of you for coming out to this event, and I want to thank the WFAE staff in particular for all the time that was put into bringing this great event to life. As was mentioned in the intro, my wife and I moved to Charlotte from Southern California in 2006. And like so many others that arrived here, we quickly found Charlotte Talks and latched onto it as a way to become informed and connected with the topics that really drive the Charlotte community. And the beauty of Charlotte Talks is that you can listen to the radio station that's important to you, whether you've been here for a week, whether you've been here for 20 years now, as we have, or whether you've grown up here your entire life. And I don't think many cities can claim to have a locally produced show that has remained relevant for 25 years. I'm immensely proud of how Charlotte Talk means to the community, and I'm also immensely proud of the great reporting that WFAE produces and all the dedicated employees that work to make WFAE relevant in our community. And lastly, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to attend this event. It's become more apparent, WFAE is making a very concerted effort to become more visible in this community. It's evident through events such as this celebration this evening. It's evident through the very visible uptown headquarters that we now have over at 301 East 7th Street, which many of you may know as the former Google Fiber building. And most importantly, it's visible through the award-winning local journalism that this organization produces. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jadon and Chris. We truly appreciate you speaking to us this evening. Now I would like to turn the table a bit and spend a moment to thank everybody for being here, as well as our banking sponsor. I would now like to introduce my bank partner. As I said, I've been here since 1987. I joined Bank of America, which was then Nations Bank, in 1997. I will be celebrating 26 years next month with the firm and looking forward to many more years. I would now like to bring to the stage Grace Nystrom. She is an SVP of Strategic Marketing from Bank of America, and she was recently honored as Businesswoman of the Year by WFAE Spanish language news partner La Noticia at the 2023 Excelente Awards. Not only did she receive that, she also was recognized as the Charlotte Business Journal Power 100 Award recipient. Please join me in welcoming my bank partner from Bank of America, Grace Nystrom.
Thank you, Frenchie. Good evening, everyone. As Frenchie mentioned, I'm Grace Nystrom. I am the Charlotte Market Executive at Bank of America. And I am delighted, of course, to be with all of you this evening as we celebrate 25 years of WFAE's Charlotte Talks with the one and only Mike Collins. But before we kick off the program, if we may, pay respect to the victims of the tragic violence in the Middle East with a moment of silence. Thank you. This program has always and will continue to have a huge impact for the listeners and the community. Like Bank of America, the show focuses on the needs and voice of the region. It forces you to take a look at what is going on around you and encourages you to get out there and, of course, make a difference. At Bank of America, we are proud to say we drive intentional impact as we strive to create an equal and sustainable economy, not only for our shareholders, clients, but within the communities where we live, where we work, and where we play. In this day and age, you never know what you're going to see when you flip on the television, including our children, right, Chris and Michelle, and hear when you turn on the radio. So now more than ever, it's important for us to really stop and listen. We must come together, we must collaborate, and respect each other's opinions if we are going to continue to drive impact and transformative change. As we gather here this evening, we want to thank Mike and WFAE for their outstanding programming and celebrate the achievements of our community. We are the third fastest growing city in the US. We are the second largest financial district in the US, whether Bank of America, US Bank. We are the second largest financial district in the US. We continue to gain the national spotlight with Fortune 100 companies selecting our region for their headquarters, and I know many of y'all are in the audience with us today. Our arts and culture scene is vibrant and booming, and our airport is now one of the busiest in the world. Believe it or not, it is a good thing, even though we travel and it's probably a little too busy, but it's good for our city. We have grown and accomplished so much over the last few decades, but also know with growth presents, of course, challenges and opportunities. So programs like WFAE's Charlotte Talks are imperative to ensure that we are getting the information that we need and are able to inform constructive opinions that force us to take action to ensure our community continues to thrive long term. On behalf of Bank of America, I want to congratulate Mike, Jadon, and Chris on 25 years of Charlotte Talks. You have, yes, you can give me a round of applause. You have built a legacy that we know will continue on for generations to come. Thank you.
Grace, thank you so much for those powerful words and for making sure that we are going to be citizens to think about other people in other countries. Thank you again. While we know that Bank of America is considered our major sponsor, we also want to take the time to recognize our associate sponsors, Fletcher School, UNC Nutrition Institute, James McElroy and Dill, Mazda of South Charlotte, and the Mint Museum. I would now like to bring to the stage Roger Sarro. Roger retired from WFAE in 2015 after serving as president of the organization for 27 years. Please welcome Roger to the stage.
Hi, everybody, and happy anniversary. So glad to see you tonight here. 25 years for Charlotte Talks, who knew? I just want to tell you that I don't work there anymore. I don't get paid by WFAE. I'm in my mid-70s, and I'm in front of a live microphone, so this could go either way, okay? Not sure. Actually, I'm here because I'm the history guy. I'm just one piece of history, I guess, anymore. Having been with WFAE so long, I do know the origin story behind Charlotte Talks because I had a little bit to do with it. And I want to take you back to the mid-1990s when it was time for public radio to look at itself and ask some really hard questions of itself. WFAE had been a conventional public radio station at that point, which meant we did a little bit of everything. We were kind of the Heinz 57 of the air here in Charlotte. We aired a smorgasbord of programming. Some news, a lot of it from the network, NPR, some traditional jazz, a whole lot of contemporary jazz, and there was some folk thrown in and other things. And listeners liked some of our shows, but they didn't love a lot of what we were doing. And that was a tough time. Stations were becoming specialized, picking one type of programming, and we call that a format, and scheduling it virtually all day. That tended to increase listenership, and that led to more station income, which was sorely needed, as it is today. Then is now one of the special things that public radio did in the news department was the feature, the 4-minute feature. You hear those, they blow you away every day, where the producer takes you on scene, and you hear the sights and the sounds and the depth of a story in your mind's eye because of this wonderful audio programming that's done. But they're really expensive to produce. And I had one board member I remember who was kind of stunned when she asked, well, how many of these 4-minute features does one reporter do in a day? And we said, no, wait a minute. It will probably be several days to do 1 minute out of that 4 minutes. It's that kind of quality that you get when you put the time in it. So one answer to that whole thing of how you do more news, how do you do more depth, how do you tell Charlotte more about Charlotte, is that you do a different kind of programming and really look at a long-form presentation or, again, a discussion show or, if you will, a talk show. You programmed a whole hour at a time, and you could go in-depth in that on any chosen topic that you could think of. But who could carry that load, doing a daily talk show that suited the public radio's taste for programming in depth? The answer was, I think, sitting right over here. I'm not sure if he's... The bifocals have worked. I think his last name was Collins, and he had built up a decades-long reputation in Charlotte for professionalism, courtesy on air, and importantly, an open mind. And that was at a time when some radio hosts in Charlotte exhibited no mind at all when they were on the air. At first, we couldn't imagine that Mike would be interested in doing a public radio show. But Mike told us he respected public radio and that he and his friends fondly remembered their time with student radio back in their college days. And I believe it was University of Maryland, right? And one of Mike's friends is the great Jay Kernis, who is an inestimable producer, first for National Public Radio and now CBS. If you enjoy Sunday morning, you're seeing a lot of Jay's tremendous work, and he's a hallmark for us all. So talking to Mike about the possibility of doing this show, he didn't slam the door on us, first of all, and we realized that many of our goals aligned. We wanted to present civil conversations, and we wanted depth in our programming about the local region, and we wanted to present almost any topic with depth and respect, but not without irking some of the listeners and causing some community controversy. So here's one of my favorites. There was a caller who called me when we started the talk shows, and he was irate because our talk shows, he said, were nothing but fluff. Well, normally when I worked, I would have my radio on low in the back to hear what was going on at the station. And I had the radio on as I talked to this guy, and I could hear that the topic that hour was cosmology, okay? So I said, Sir, you feel we're doing fluff, but the topic we're talking about right now is the origin of the universe. And the caller said, see, just like I told you, fluff. Absolutely true story. Hand up to God, every word of it. So I have no idea how to summarize hundreds of hours of shows over the years. And I think Wendy told me earlier tonight, and it's not hundreds, I believe it's thousands, 6,500 shows you've done. No wonder they look the way they do. Guess some of us retained our youth if we just stayed in the office away from the fray. Guests that ranged from Ralph Nader to Carol Channing, virtually any politician that came down the pike. I think there was a Nobel Prize winner or two who came on air. And then there were the on-air surprises. Executive producer Wendy Herkey, almost killed Mike one or two times. There was the cooking show. I always love talking about that, one of the first shows. Wendy had the guests use a chafing dish with a live flame in the enclosed, tight, hermetically sealed studio. And the fire went a little bit out of hand. Now, that one was, again, Wendy always claimed it was an accident. I was never very sure. This talk studio was pretty crowded. And there was the time that Wendy booked a 10-piece band, and it sort of extended out into the place between the studios, but she got it going. And there was a guest who would show up now and then after a bit of partying. And then there was the bullet hole, but you'll have to ask about that after the show. That's a teaser in terms of what happened with the bullet hole. But it's all turned out pretty well. I think you'd agree with me after 25 years. My wife, the journalism professor, summed up for me the strength of the morning edition staff, Mike, Wendy, Gabe, Sarah. She says, they do their homework. Right, they do their homework. And by the way, I'd be remiss if I didn't go, if I went further without talking about Joey Sprinkle, who is the station's executive engineer. And without him, nothing happens. He creates all the sound. He's gone all over the region, if not all over the country, engineering, setting up, creating the sound for Charlotte Talks. And Joby's one of these guys who literally can take two wires and twist them together, and all of a sudden you're on the air. So, and believe me, also, you do not piss off the station's engineer. Joby, we love you. Thank you so much, wherever you are here. Couldn't do it without you. 25 years and more. I want to get serious for a second and tell you about one of the things that's happened in radio that maybe was better in the past. In today's media world, a goal of civil conversation might kind of strike us as quaint, right? At one time, though, things were different, and we can thank regional regulation, federal regulation for it, of all things. There was a time when all American radio and TV stations had to live by what was called the Fairness Doctrine. It required broadcasters to devote some of their airtime to discussing controversial matters of public interest. In other words, they had to do news, they had to do public affairs and report about it. And they had to air contrasting views on those matters. It was introduced by the feds in 1949 and scrapped in 1987. When the Fairness Doctrine was killed by court challenges and heavy industry lobbying, the floodgates opened, in my opinion. In time, we wound up with one-sided programming that made no attempt to provide balance. Big audiences were generated by throwing red meat to an increasingly excited crowd as they listened. Big audiences led to big ad revenue, leading to big industry profits. And today, it's probably what we call appealing to the base. Have we benefited from that no-holds-barred, often political use of the airwaves? I'll let each of you decide. I'm not so sure. When you're doing live radio, you never know exactly what the day is going to be like, right? Well, I want to take you back to a Tuesday morning. This was years ago, about this time of year. I wasn't at the studios, but I was headed to a meeting uptown. And as I walked along out of the parking lot, I heard two men on the street, and they seemed to be talking about an airline mishap. And it was nothing very serious. It was like one of those pilot mistakes that happens several times where somebody would actually land at the wrong airport. But that's not what was going on. It was September 11th. When broadcasters bring you world-shaking events, first of all, they've got to figure out what's going on themselves. It's really true. Charlotte Talks was setting up that day for a live remote guest, singer Tom Chapin. He was in a remote studio, of all places, in New York City. The first plane hit the North Tower of the Trade Center at 8:46 a.m., and that was exactly 20 minutes before the Charlotte Talk local airtime. The second terror plane struck at 9:03 a.m., just as NPR's Carl Castle was live, and he was doing his newscast on the hour, 9:03. Those newscasts end at 9:06. Carl, sitting in Washington, read a short statement about a suspected plane incident in New York. That's all they knew at that time. Then it was 9:06, and Mike had to start his normally prepared show. NPR started to alert the stations, and our control room had to get the news to Mike. But how bad was it? Do you scrap the rest of your show to go to the network? Was the network ready? No one was ready. But at such a moment, I think you'll agree, you do the best you can do, right? You do what you can do. Before long, the coverage we switched to was NPR going continuous. And about 20 minutes to 10 that morning, Bob Edwards talked with a reporter at the Pentagon, and I'll never forget this. I heard it as it happened. Bob stopped a report talking to the Pentagon reporter mid-sentence, saying he'd just been handed a wire service copy, and it was a bulletin that said fire alarms were going off in the Pentagon. The reporter couldn't hear any alarms at that point. And then a moment later, you could hear the Pentagon fire alarms just blaring. So the reporter cut the interview short and evacuated, and the Pentagon plane strike was at 9:37 a.m. Just think of it. The wire service carried a disaster bulletin before the other half of the Pentagon building knew it had been struck. Some WFAE staffers had lived in Manhattan or had family there or close friends, and it was far too early to know if they were all right or not. That morning, we staffers formed a little circle. We joined hands and shared just a silent moment. Staffers told me they thought that nothing would ever be the same. Well, we did whatever it took to cover this story, hour after hour and day after day. Charlotte Talks, of course, covered the local and regional angles. And then I remember walking past the studios and listening to a loudspeaker when a listener phoned in who said he was of Mideast descent. He said, "I am an American. I love my country. This is my home. But now it's different. How people look at me when I'm out on the street these last couple of days, how kids talk to my kids. Nothing will ever be the same." Well, nothing was the same. At that time, Charlotte Talks was 3 years old, I believe. Tonight, we celebrate 25 years. But the purpose stays the same. Civil discussion on the widest range of ideas, treated with thoughtfulness and respect. They do their homework. I just want to say that the show's anniversary is really our anniversary, everybody who is here tonight, because you take the time to listen. Even on those very rare occasions when we ask you to open up your wallet an inch or two. So please, above all, remember this evening, if nothing else. You really do need some more coffee mugs. You do. Just check. And maybe a t-shirt or two, okay? Thank you for joining us tonight, and happy silver anniversary.
Roger, thank you so much for being a walking historian. I don't know if any of you in the audience really understand what radio means, but what you just heard Roger explain was, it's happening real time. There is no script. What do you do? And you have to have the right person to be able to speak to that and to ensure that they understand that there are several listeners who need to make a decision about what to do, make an opinion, and then understand what is happening, not just in Charlotte, but around the world. And it sounds like that is exactly what you've been able to do. Thank you so much for that. So Roger, while we're in the back, I want you to give me a little bit more history so I have some other things to talk about when I come out here. So before we continue on, I want us to take a moment. You just heard the historian talk about his experience the 27 years. We only hear what is being told to us through radio. I now want for you to see what happens behind the scenes. Let's roll the video.
We're here at WFAE's new Uptown location on 7th Street to broadcast the weekly news roundup on Charlotte Talks live. But before we do that, let's give you a little behind-the-scenes look. Let's go inside.
Good morning. Thank you all for coming to join us this morning for this special live taping of Charlotte Talks.
I've got the camera facing you. For the shows in general, we come up with ideas. And sometimes that's as a group, sometimes it's just the producers. The first step is for us to do the research. Then it's to put that into something where Mike can digest it.
I get a packet of material from producers who have booked the guests and who have done a lot of the research, although I do more. I spend 3 or 4, maybe 5 hours a day just figuring out what the topic is, what I need to know about the topic, who I should ask certain questions of, and I script it out.
You can't have too much of a good thing. Okay. Jump in, baby. That's the third cut.
He takes the information that I've given him and turns it into what you hear on the air. And I could never write the kind of questions that he writes. You know, it's a special skill that he does. 30 seconds.
Mostly sunny and hot today with highs near 96 degrees. Heat index values as high as 102.
This is Charlotte Talks. I'm Mike Collins on the local news roundup. Charlotte.
Who is Mike Collins? Well, I mean, I would say, you know, first and foremost, he's kind of a news junkie. He's curious. He's genuinely curious about things, and that's what, you know, starts his interviews.
And you have all these parents saying, not that textbook.
There are processes already.
I set out to make this a place that was the talk show of record, whatever that means. A place that if you knew something was going on in the city, you knew you would be hearing about it on this program, and you'd be hearing about it in depth.
So why this epiphany?
It's called The Pivot. It's called He Wants to Run in a General Election.
Used to be called flip-flopping.
I mean, I think we like what we're doing, and it doesn't get old.
Is WFAE. My God, the whole staff is here.
The information that we're sharing with people, I think, is a mission. It feels good to be able to inform our, you know, it's not just Charlotte, but the whole listening area about the city that they live in.
It's hoaxy.
I began this evening telling you WFAE's mission, journalism that informs, enriches, and inspires. Some of the things that you just heard in that video behind the scenes, he's prepared research, notes, data, stats. You'll hear that one a little later. Script, engage, inform, all for storytelling. So now we have an opportunity to see storytelling live in person. In Charlotte, we are now going to bring Saturday Night Live to the stage, welcoming Charlotte Squawks.
I have this thing where I get hungry for an appetizer, mid-mornings or late afternoons. My occupation and my family all take a backseat, so I have time to just consume. Yum! I take my Honda to this one fast food train. Traffic is insane. It's quite plain. I'm blocking the right lane. Happens every time. But me, I'm not even caring 'cause I'm in line. It's me. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. It's asinine, everybody agrees. I'm parked directly in the street while never pulling in though. This is exhausting, always waiting at the drive-thru window. Sometimes it feels like everyone in Charlotte's waiting with me to genuflect to this franchise. Sure, there's a history that's anti-gay and moralistic, but y'all, they have great waffle fries. The clock is ticking, I'm stricken with choosing which meal I'm picking, as they command eat more chicken and we'll pay big bucks.
We'll wait here forever as I smile and say my pleasure.
Bojangles sucks. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem. It's me. It's ass 9. Everybody agrees. I'm parked directly in the street while never pulling in though. This is exhausting, always waiting at the drive-thru window.
I had this dream where we ran out of tea and chicken nuggets, and so they nailed me to a cross. The people gathered round, and every one of them forsake me as I bleed Polynesian sauce. It's me. Hi. I'm the problem, it's me.
Hi, Cal. It's me. Hi. Can I have some sweets? It's me. Hi. Extra pickles, please. Extra pickles, please.
I'm just a cow, lady.
It's me.
Moo!
Hi. I'm the problem. Can I have some sweet tea?
Moo!
Hi. Everybody agrees. I'm parked directly in the street while never pulling in though. This is exhausting, always waiting at the drive-thru window. Thanks. Okay, bye.
All clear for Governor Cooper.
Every moment censored affection. The legislature gives me no affection, yeah. Turns every situation so contentious, yeah. Whoa, whoa, they are undermining me every day. All they do is get in the way. Makes me want to kill all of those bozos slowly.
Slowly.
Everything is deadlocked and we can't go on. Counting down the days until my term is done. I know I've got another year that I will still be governor here. Baby, I don't know if I can last that long.
Every bill he tries to read is so grotesque. You only have one option when it heats your desk. It may be in vain, but it's all you can do so. Oh yeah, yeah. Every bill they try to read, he says no mas. But they have their number, so they always pass. And despite the futile act, the bill goes through though.
Desperate veto. Every single bill I see I must torpedo. But then when I try, they're overriding me though. Swatting me away like I'm some damn mosquito. Desperate veto. Making me look weak, it's just a basic credo. Shot under the bar like I'm that creature Greedo. I should just go home and eat a bag of Cheetos.
Estúpe, estúpe, estúpe.
Passing bills to take abortion rights away, we'll see, yo. Lifting background checks on gun show. Focusing on CRTO. Targeting transgender high school kids, that's really weak, bro. Trying to deport Latinos. Drawing maps to gain more seats, yo.
They knock him over like a domino, and they tell he's screaming mama no. It's like he's in Guantanamo. They got him screaming mama no.
Just stop
all that they can do now is just take it from these bum bums. They are gonna blow through their own budget, freaking dumb dumbs. The legislating pay raises and taxes from their cronies. Get out there and vote against all of these phonies. Action puts a fire to his ointment. They won't even let him make his own appointment.
miss.
I veto and veto, but I can't compete. Oh, all of this rejection is bad for my ego. But I guess our war is not a shocking story. They would even battle with their boy McCrory. I veto and veto, wearing a tuxedo, but it doesn't matter. I could wear a Speedo. I should wear a dress and call all the press. Go to the bathroom, cause another mess.
Oh yeah.
Desperate veto, every single bill I see I must torpedo. But then when I try, they're overriding me though, swatting me away like I'm some damn mosquito. Desperate veto, even though it's gonna end in sure defeato. And they got me wrapped up tight like a burrito. It's like a pop song that's stuck on repeato. I veto and veto, and it isn't neato. Running out of rhymes here, we like Jerrito. Hell no, personally, I like Tito.
I like Tito's, baby.
I veto and veto, visiting Home Depot, going down the aisle to buy a gazebo.
I like visiting La Casino. I like the game de coquino.
Desperate veto.
Who has been to a Charlotte Squawks before? That's great, that's great. I'm so excited because I would like to sing a song for you that you have never heard before. At least not this version. This is a new one. You are a theme park best in the world. You have a coaster that makes people hurl. But after one woozy rider yaks, he stares up blankly at the tracks, and he spots a giant crack. Sing it with me! You had a bad day, and you had to kill. The only excuse to go to Fort Mill. I know that this ride should make us all scared, but not 'cause the way that it was repaired. You had a bad day, but they all survived. I guess it's more safe than 485. You had a bad day. You had a bad day.
You are a voter backing the blue. Ooh, your candidate wins. Your district came through. But one day while getting out of bed, you find that your town has been misled because she switched her team to red. You had a bad day, and now that she's split, the governor's veto doesn't mean shit. She took all our votes, and now she's a whore for GOP plans and also 10 more. We had a bad day, 'cause lady you switched. But watch out next fall, we'll get you back, bitch. We have a bad day. We've sung about some real bad days that happened this year in this song. You might think they were the worst 2 days that could have possibly come along, but you'd be wrong.
You are a legend in local news. We are here tonight to celebrate you. Everything's friendly, fun, and warm, and has seemed to go to form. But then we start to perform. Will you have a bad day? Should you be afraid? I mean, we drank all your booze since we're not getting paid.
Fair.
Nope. Should you be scared? This one might hurt, 'cause we've got all those pics, and we know all your dirt. For
instance, did you know that Mike Collins didn't actually start out in radio? He started out as a film actor. One film with one line as a pizza delivery boy. Somebody ordered this pizza with extra sausage, and he nailed it. He nailed it, literally. Listen, don't be judgmental, because public radio didn't always pay as well as it does today.
And that is your public service announcement to dig deep into those pockets for the big bucks.
Right. So that Mike never has to do a film like that again.
That's right.
Okay, is that true? No, that is a complete lie. However, this is true. Everyone knows that you are the best. As for anyone else, well, please, fuck all the rest. Right? You know, you're right, Mike, you can't say that on NPR. But you can say it near NPR. So have a great day. The very best day. Love you, Mike. Love you, Mike.
We launched Charlotte Talks because we knew that in addition to the national programming, we needed local programming.
We hold people's feet to the fire more than perhaps you can do in a 40-second soundbite on television or a 10-second soundbite on TV. And I call people on not answering the questions that I have asked them so that the listener can decide for themselves. Did they answer? Is that the answer that I should have heard? Are they skirting the issue? Has it changed the way I feel about this issue? I remember having Pat McCrory on the program many times, and people taking issue with light rail and saying it was going to be the great boondoggle and nobody was going to ride it. And he kept saying it's not just about ridership, it's about economic development. And lo and behold, he was right.
When you went and did an interview with Mike Collins, he didn't just walk into the studio. He did always come late, but he came late with a lot of notes and data and statistics. He gave you a fair hearing. The callers were tough, but he was always fair. I always respected that.
Charlotte Talks feeds our curiosity because it covers so many things that we're all interested in: local, national, the arts. And I really admire the breadth of what is covered within just a given week, let alone a given year.
The one person who
We started doing this thing on Fridays where we gather reporters and talk about the most important stories that have happened that week here in town. It's a destination for people at the end of the week. And it's not just our regular listeners, it's, policymakers and the mayor and, city council members are tuning in to see what Mike and the reporters have to say about what happened in Charlotte this week.
The show serves as an honest broker to inform, to educate, to promote, and to really assure that everyone understands what's happening, why it's happening.
There are so many watershed moments in Charlotte's history. Charlotte Talks was right there, front and center.
This is Charlotte Talks. I'm Mike Collins.
I've been on his show a number of times. I'm pretty old, so he's had me in a lot of different roles, but I've always found him fair, and I've always found it challenging, intellectually challenging. I believe the city is very lucky to have Mike Collins.
Mike's impact on Charlotte is immeasurable. Everybody listens to Mike Collins and have for the last 25 years.
He sort of traps the issues that are important in the community, and then he brings the personalities that influence those issues. And that is a mighty role for anybody to play.
Did you enjoy the Charlotte Squawks? Yes. This is their annual comedy stage show, and they just wrapped up their 18th year. Give it up for the Charlotte Squawks. When I took the time to look at the video that you just saw, Charlotte Squawks talked about the impact that Mike has had in our city and on the radio. And then you had an opportunity to see the video, and I told you we're going to hear a few words that you heard me speak of earlier when Pat McCrory talked about he comes late, but he has his notes, his data, and his statistics. You also heard that we needed local programming. You hold people accountable because you want people to be able to determine, did they really answer the question? Or are they skirting around what I asked them? And I'm not going to back off of my question. You feed our curiosity. Destination conversation. You inform, educate, and promote. And this right here is what really stood out for me. They said that you are fair and intellectually challenging. Again, accolades to you for everything that you're doing. I now would like to bring back to the stage an opportunity to have more fun poked at politics, pop culture, sports, and things Charlotte through satire and musical parodies. Back to the stage are Charlotte Squawks.
We can't stay this way, can't let construction end. You set off a dream in me, getting bigger now. Can you see the scaffolding? Take these plans, you must build this for me. Charlotte, I'll tell you. All the gates for 1,000 new flights, all the miles for our moving sidewalks will never be enough, never be enough. New towers are good, but still too little. These concourses are wide, but it'll never be enough. Never be enough for me. Never, 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 never for me, for me. Never enough, never enough, never enough for me, for me, for me. All the lines in 1,000 Starbucks, all the ports to charge our devices will never be enough, never be enough. That parking deck is still too little. These lanes could go 10 wide, but it'll never be enough, never be enough for me. Never, 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 never for me, for me. Never enough, never, never, never enough, never, never, never enough for me, for me, for me.
when did you last let yourself imbibe?
I can open your eyes, take you tap room by tap room, grab a bike and a map zoom on a magic light rail ride,
A whole brew world, a new fantastic choice of brews.
yoga and patios,
And dogs can go.
we'll spend the whole day drinking
A whole brew world, a guzzling place with flights to do.
Look at this atmosphere,
Types of beer.
yes, now we're in a whole new world of brews.
Now I'm in a whole new world of
Unbelievable ales, indescribable porters.
We'll play cornhole at quarters as we raise our glasses high.
A whole brew world.
Don't you dare have a bud.
100,000
This one tastes
breweries.
jalapeno.
Finally, this
uptight town can throw one down.
We'll drink Ass Clown and go to
A whole brew
try some
world and sycamores
Baby
on
Maker and Copper. Let's go to Triple C.
and OMB.
I have to pee
This whole new world of
a whole brew
a whole brew world.
One more for me.
One more for me.
Another round
In our big town of
Charlotte talks, Charlotte talks.
Let's give it up for Charlotte Squawks and the band. Give my theme music. Give my theme music. I now want to hear a little bit more about Charlotte Squawks and how they got started. So, Brian Kahn, if you could, please join me on stage. So, tell me a little bit about how did Charlotte Squawks get started?
How do I summarize the beginnings of Charlotte Squawks in the 45 minutes that you've given me tonight? You know, honestly, Mike and I both got roped into a charity event for WTVI. It was supposed to be a one-night or maybe a two-night event for 1 year, and it was a disaster because all the sponsors, it was supposed to be a fundraiser, right? Like this. But we made fun of all our sponsors, and they didn't like that. But the audience loved it, and we sold tickets, so the Blumenthal brought us in, and we've been rolling ever since, 18 years.
Wow. If someone wants to join or be a part of it, what do you have to do?
You got to.
Because that was my theme music. I mean, I was getting it in. I felt it. You know, and I started doing a little bit of that right there. You know, so.
I feel like you got the vibe. You're in. Yeah, you're definitely in.
In the shower, I'm the boy in the shower. I am Whitney Houston in the shower, but out in public, no. Okay. Oh.
Mike, the audience has turned on you once again.
Any parting words that you would like to share with us before we move on with the program?
Yes, for the 50th anniversary show, we're going to get paid for that, right, Mike?
Because it sounded like they drank all your booze because they wasn't getting paid, so.
Thank you for the opportunity to do this. Come see us next year. It'll be in June, we think, right? If we're allowed back. So thank you all.
Congratulations.
And congratulations, Mike.
And congratulations to you again for 18 years. Let's give it up for Charlotte Squawks. Well, the night show's going to keep getting even more and more exciting. I can't even put it in words. The first time I heard this phenomenal woman was with Bank of America, Black Women Ready to Lead. And now I am so excited to be able to bring to the stage spoken word. Please give a round of applause to Hannah Hassan.
Good evening. As we saw in one of the videos earlier, one of the most important stories that Charlotte Talks has covered over the years is that of the light rail. It's one of their few live broadcasts that they've done, and it was held on opening day on the train. They rode the very first blue line to Pineville and back, and I think there's just something so inspiring and poignant about that. Did you hear about the light rail? Touching every corner of our city, it gets our people from one destination to the next. Greater than transportation, it opens us up to possibility, creates space for Charlotte to be its very best. Did you hear about Charlotte Talks? A beacon of information in our city, covering the stories daily that shape our lives, that inform our experiences. 25 years of conversation, 25 years of information. Charlotte Talks, like the light rail, a connector that meets us at our center. And at the heart of it all, we will find Mike Collins. Getting down to the meat of it all, he is asking, seeking, searching, finding the answers, uncovering in real time the questions underneath the layers. He is peeling back the covers, assessing behaviors, digging into the story that has yet to be told. For 1 hour of peeking into the world around us, Charlotte Talks is beautiful and bold. It's interesting and illuminating. It's for the curious and courageous. It's candid and captivating from one corner of our city to the next. It connects us to the stories, the people, the experiences that make Charlotte the absolute best. The most important stories of our lifetime have been covered there. From the DNC to the arts tax to the local impact of a global pandemic, it's all made its way into the conversation in real time, on air. And our community is richer for it. Our understanding of what is happening around us is elevated and clarified, and ultimately it creates space for us to decide where we stand on an issue. For 25 years, we have tuned in to understand the issues, to hear about arts and culture and current events and history, to hear interviews with the people who are in elected offices and the people who lead within this city. We sit with Mike as he digs deep into the crevices. We understand, uncover, and we challenge together. And there's something about that sacred hour that sits us down as a community together, that transports us from one stop to the next and that ultimately gets us home. There's something about Charlotte Talks that binds the community, that is trusted and transparent. That train is never late and it always welcomes us on. Thank you.
Wow. Never late. Never late. Welcomes us home. Thank you. That is what you've done for us. Thank you again, Hannah. Truly appreciate that. Now I would like to bring to the stage Nick De La Canal and ask Nick to come join me on the stage for a few questions before he takes over the stage with some other participants. Hello, Nick. Thank you. Let's come in the light so they can see you a little bit.
It's weird since it's radio, people can actually see me, but.
Yeah, it's a TV, they can see me, so they can see you now, yes. So, let's hear a little bit about you. How long have you been involved or a part of WFAE and Charlotte Talks?
For 10 years, and a funny story is I actually was hired as an intern for Charlotte Talks 10 years ago, and it's very amazing to me to be on this stage now alongside Mike Collins and everyone else.
And when you joined 10 years ago, yes, give it up. When you joined 10 years ago, did you believe that you would be here this long, and did you think you would see it evolve the way that it has?
I have to say that even 10 years ago, I was a big fan of public radio and NPR, and this is something that I knew, it was something that I wanted to be a part of and to work for and to do, so I don't know if I knew I would still be here in 10 years, but I really am glad that I am.
Well, we're so glad to have you here. I'll now turn the mic over to you and the stage. Thank you again, Nick, for joining us on stage.
Thank you. Oh.
I'll take that.
Oh, all right. Well, I have the distinct pleasure of getting to introduce the man of the hour, but also the rest of the team of Charlotte Talks. I guess I would like to welcome to the stage first some of the veteran staff members of Charlotte Talks, some of our veteran producers. First, we've got Chris Miller, who is a former producer. Come on down, Chris. Also, a longtime producer who drove in from out of town tonight, Aaron Keever. Come on down. Also, we've got our current producers with us tonight, Gabe Altieri. Come on down. As well as Sarah D'Elia. Come on down. feel like we're on The Price is Right. Also, our longtime executive producer, Wendy Herkey. Come on out, Wendy. And finally, let me introduce the man of the night. He puts the rad and the O in radio. Mike Collins, come on out. Hi, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Now, I'm going to embarrass him before you even ask the first question.
Oh, gosh.
Several years ago, how many years was it? It was on this spot, right
10
here.
or 11 on this very stage.
On this very stage. You had just pulled a prank at, was it?
Myers Park?
Myers Park. And I read about it in the paper, and we were doing Charlotte Squawks that week, and I asked somebody to get him into the audience so that I could bring him up on stage and embarrass him.
And I also have to preface this too. I was a very wild kid in high school, which I still carry to this day. But.
Tell him what you did. Tell him what you did that got you banned from the campus for life.
This is a true story. This is a story. If anyone's been in Charlotte for a very long time, they may remember. But again, I was a wild kid in high school, and I thought it would be funny on my high school graduation to drop my pants. This is a true story. I'm gonna say I was wearing boxer shorts that were dress code length. They were fingertip length. I didn't think it was gonna be a big deal, but I did end up getting ejected from the stadium. It's a long story. And actually, I was banned for life, and actually a reporter at the time who worked for The Observer, Ann Doss Helms, wrote a story about me. She's now my colleague.
Yeah.
Anyways, it made the paper, yeah.
It made the paper. I got in touch with you. You came to see the show, but only with the caveat that when I brought you up on the stage and you talked to me about the incident, you would do it again.
I forgot this.
And he did do it again. But before he did it again, I said, well, you're a young guy, and this has gone on your permanent record, which is now destroyed forever. What do you want to be when you grow up? I said, what do you want to do? And he said, I want your job. So be very, very careful tonight.
With that said, let's begin the interview. Oh, man. Actually, my first question for you, Mike, was going to be, is this weird? But in a different sense, though. I actually just wanted to know how you kind of feel about even being interviewed at all, because as someone who now does a lot of interviews, I've found myself when I get interviewed, it's weird for me because I'll get in my head about what I'm saying, and then I get tripped up. But I don't how do you feel about that? How do you think about it?
I don't like being interviewed, and the clock in my head says it's time to shut up.
Well, hopefully this will be fun and painless.
Okay.
I want to ask really about the show's origins. First off, I know we heard earlier from Roger, who kind of talked about it from his perspective, but. What was it like from your perspective? Why did you want to start the show? Why did you want to do this?
I have a whole different point of view than Roger. I don't think we were in the same room together. No, I recall that it took a long time to get the show on the air because the station had just gone from playing jazz with Barbara Nail and other luminaries and had famous luminaries like Kathy Merritt, who went on to do things with news, and Fiona Ritchie, who did the Celtic music. And they had just pushed the button on NPR's talk programming, and I thought, coming from another talk station down the street, that they ought to have a local talk show. And as luck would have it, they fired me at that other station down the street about that same time, because I was thinking, if they're going to go all talk, they're going to eat our lunch. FAE is going to eat our lunch. And so Paul Stribling and Roger Sarro and I sat down for the period of a year and talked about doing it. And they finally, because it takes money and it takes courage, because there are liability issues involved in doing live radio talk shows. And we finally decided we would do it. We pulled the plug on it, and the first 2 episodes were the worst damn thing you ever heard. Because I was doing it like I did WBT.
Guess what? We're not WBT. Thank you, Jesus. Although I have to say, before I go too deeply into this, one of the performers that they brought back for Charlotte Squawks works at WBT. And for the longest time, I could not figure out why they fired me. And now I understand it, because that was Beth Troutman, who was a Charlotte Squawker for a long time. Beth Troutman does the morning show at WBT with Bo Thompson. Beth Troutman, BT, Bo Thompson, BT. You have to have B and T in your name or you can't work there. That's the reason.
And you were Mike Collins, of course.
Out.
So for the first couple years, you were working with different producers. Wendy, you came in, I think it was a few years into the show.
It was about a year and a half. I helped run the board for a little bit during the time of our second producer. When she left, I was sort of filling in for a few weeks, or however long it was. I was sort of filling in as producer and just booking shows and getting it done. And at the time, the producer of Charlotte Talks was a part-time position. And so Mike asked me one day after the show, why aren't you applying for this job? And I said, I need a full-time job. This is part-time. And so he made it happen and made the producer job full-time. We reworked some things with my position.
How come the producers are full-time and I'm not?
Just something to think about.
I'll put in a word for you.
Thank you.
I wanted to know, too, what was it like in those early years working with Mike Collins? You were still kind of earlier in your career. He was a big talent, this big personality who would come in. What was it like in those early years?
Right, it could be intimidating for sure, yeah. But I mean, the work is the biggest part of it. The part with Mike, it was sort of a lot of it was by phone, because Mike did, as we talked, he's part-time, so, he gets his information, we talk a lot by phone, we hand him some information, and really the only time we see each other is that day, 5 minutes before the show when you're ready to get on the air. Yeah, right. and doing the show. And so there's glass in between us a lot of that time, so there's a little separation. But yeah, I mean, it really, our show is not, it's a lot about the topics and what we're covering, so that's what our focus was right from the beginning.
Well, one of the things that really surprised me when I came in as an intern 10 years ago was to see how much or how involved producers were in actually creating the show. And that's something that listeners, I don't think, realize the amount of work that kind of goes into it. And it was kind of touched on in some of these topics. But I was wondering if one of the producers could kind of discuss what a producer is, what they do, and sort of what the process is for creating the show.
I want to hear the answer to this.
Sarah?
Oh, okay. Well, gosh, I've done a lot of different things at WFAE. I've been a reporter, I've been a host, I've been a guest on Charlotte Talks, I've guest hosted Charlotte Talks.
That's right.
So when I came on as a senior producer, it was very interesting to be using a lot of same muscles, but different ones, or same muscles in a different way. And it really is so much about thinking about well, is Mike gonna like this? Okay, Mike's not gonna like this show about soccer, but how do I sell him on a show about soccer? So there's that part of it, but it's also so much thinking about our listeners. And maybe I don't know anything about this particular topic, but it's what everyone in Charlotte is talking about. And that's what I am so moved by being a part of the Charlotte Talks team now, is just that dedication to finding what is on not just the minds, but the hearts of our listeners. And so a lot of it is getting emails from folks, it's getting phone calls from folks, and seeing how do we make that Charlotte related or a conversation that folks are gonna care about in Charlotte. And then a lot of it is talking. We talk all day. We work not in the same room from each other, but I am constantly pinging Gabe and Wendy, and it's such a collaboration, and I can't find this one guest, or I'm missing this one piece. How do I make it come together? So, sometimes it's from our listeners that we get our story ideas, and sometimes it's with our own personal lives that we think, hey, I'm a new parent, and I have a lot of questions about CMS, and that leads to lots of fun topics and shows that we can do. So it's as much of a partnership with the team as with our listeners.
Yeah. Gabe, do you have anything to add to that?
Well,
How do you think about it?
I was just going to say, so Mike does a good job. I'm going to preface it with this.
Thanks.
He does a good job of keeping the listener at the front of the mind. So we'll pitch an idea, and Mike will often say, is it an hour? Can we do it for an hour? And usually we do, where Mike helps us out as well and makes sure that it goes an hour. But there is nothing more infuriating than when you get to the end of those hours, and you already know where I'm going with this, and Mike says, we could have gone another hour. Happens more often than not, but he's doing it because he wants us to keep in mind the listeners and that this show needs to take up the entire hour. And what is he going to do if he gets to 9:40 and he doesn't have any questions anymore? And I think that's maybe a recurring nightmare for Mike.
Has that
Every
ever
day.
happened?
Every day.
Do you have like bad work dreams where that happens sometimes?
Not dreams, but I am concerned about every show. I am nervous before every show.
Oh gosh.
I've done this for 52 years now.
Well, it never comes across.
And because I never know what's going to happen. I'm in control to a point, but I never know if the guest is going to be a talker or whether I really have enough material. I usually over-prepare, but there have been days when I look at the clock and I thought, holy crike, it's only 9:13. Oh my God. And there was a day when it was 9:50, and I thought, well, that's 8.5 minutes to go, and I ain't got nothing. Nothing in the tank. And you just open yourself up to the universe, and something comes.
And that's live radio.
Yeah.
Chris Miller at the end of the chairs.
At the end of what?
At the end of the chairs. You came to Charlotte Talks after working, I believe, at WBT.
I was at WBT.
For over a decade.
Mike and I was there 14 years. Mike was there 14 years.
Yeah.
We had a similar journey here.
Well,
I chose to leave. He got the boot. Because I'd run my course over there, and I was looking for something new. I tried to get on at WFAE before, and things just never aligned. And I had listened to Mike since I was a kid. My radio debut was on your show when my dad would call in, and I would go in the back and go, so I could hear 7 seconds later my cough on the radio. So when the opportunity came open on Charlotte Talks, I thought producing an hour discussion show that I respected is something that I had not done in my career yet, and I respected Mike greatly.
That was before he worked with.
Right. And despite the interview, the job interview, I got the job. And yeah, it came on board right as the show. The show's been on the news since the beginning, but it's had just life cycles. And in 2016 is when I came on, and I think Charlotte was going through changes that the country was going through, and the show had to respond to it. We were responding to the rise of the former president. We were responding to racial protests and unrest in Charlotte, and so that was a different iteration of the show that we came on and made it about what was going on that moment in Charlotte. So.
Yeah. I also want to give a special shout out tonight to Erin Kiefer over here, because this is the woman who first hired me at WFAE as an intern.
Got you. Despite the underwear snafu.
Yeah. She interviewed me in my college dorm room over the phone, I remember. Also, I think you have the accolade of being the longest serving producer of Charlotte Talk, maybe of Charlotte Talks short of Wendy. So I wanted to save this question for you. What's it like working with Mike?
Oh, Nick.
She doesn't anymore.
You would ask the former producer what it's like to work with Mike. No, I've really enjoyed working with Mike. I mean, you don't stay at a job for 16 plus years if you don't thoroughly appreciate the people you're working with. I mean, we have such a special thing going on at Charlotte Talks. Like, what I think is so great about the team is the way we all have each other's backs. And as far as Mike, I mean, Mike has to be one of the hardest working people I've ever known. He puts in the hours to get it right. And while
the producer team brings so much of the ideas and formulating how to talk about things and the guests and the prep. Mike is the one on the line. He's the one on the microphone live every day who's got to get it right. It's a little bit of a tightrope act, and it's something he's perfected over many years, and it's because he puts the work in. So that being said, he expects excellence of himself, and he expects excellence of the producers. And that's why you get the excellent program that you listen to every day. That's why the program has lasted for 25 years, because Mike expects excellence of everyone on the team. And I feel like it's made the program better. I feel like it's made me better as a producer. And I don't think it's too humble to say that I think he's made Charlotte better over the last 25 years. He's pushed all of us to look at ourselves individually, look at ourselves as a society, look at the problems that we continue to face over and over. We kind of joke about some of the feedback we get from Mike about the topics, and one of them, Gabe, I thought you were going to say was, "Are we doing this topic again?" But frankly, some of these problems are persistent in our society. And so to be able to go to the level of detail and depth and knowledge that it takes to really tease out some of these things that we've talked about over the years, like it takes someone who has been there and seen Charlotte over the last 25 years. And I think that's something that we all appreciate. Like, that's super rare. Having someone that is at the helm of a show, their show, for the entire run of it is incredibly remarkable. And I think Charlotte's lucky to have you, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said.
Aaron left us to go and be the producer of a brand new, as yet not on the air show at WUNC in Durham. Was there 2 hosts?
There are.
And you
It
didn't
takes 2 to do the job of Mike Collins.
And you didn't call me? But you start October 30th?
October 30th is the plan, yeah. And I will say I have learned so much from my time at Charlotte Talks and what it takes to put a daily program on the air. And I would be remiss if I were not to recognize Wendy Herkey for the leader she has been in leading this team. Behind every great man is an amazing woman, and you are that woman. And she really, I mean, it takes a lot to be a leader of a show like this. It can be a grind. It grinds people down. We've heard so many tales of programs, TV shows, whatever, stuff going on behind the scenes, unsavory things. It takes a real leader to get people through the grind and burnout that can be caused by this kind of program. And Wendy is the kind of empathetic leader that I hope to be one day. And I think that she is such a great model for teams like this, and like, it just like betters all of us, and like I just think that that's the way to be, is like Wendy Herkey. So Wendy Herkey, everybody.
Well, one of the things that we've talked a lot and heard about tonight is how this show is live. It is live on the air, which means anything can happen and the show just has to go on. One of the things I did want to bring up when I was talking with Wendy a couple days ago about the show was the fire in the studio. That was addressed earlier by Roger. The studio did not actually catch fire.
It was
right?
much worse than Roger painted it. Because it wasn't a chafing dish, it was a hot plate, and the guy was live firing, you know how you pour the alcohol in it. Anyway, he was doing it on a hot plate, and he just happened to be standing directly under the sprinkler in the ceiling. And then the smoke began to build in the building. It got to the point where I could not see through the glass in the control room. Yeah. And so we opened the door to the hallway, because I thought any moment now we're all going to get drenched, and the fire alarm's going to go off. It didn't happen, but it was. I looked at in the eyes of the guy cooking, and I knew it was out of control.
Well, I also wanted to follow up on what was the bullet hole.
Oh, we did our show for years from Spirit Square on 7th Street. And one morning we came in, and there was this bullet hole in the window and a bullet hole in the wall across from the window. Evidently, there had been an altercation the night before. Right. And I thought, geez, I've never thought about this not being bulletproof glass. Yeah. Yikes.
They didn't like their mug.
Have there been any other times, and I'll open this up for any of you guys, like any other times where, that you can remember where your heart has stopped just as a producer or?
Every day.
Yes, that is, okay.
My watch is like, beats per minute is up right now. That kind of thing.
Well,
every day between 9 and 10.
And it's actually, it's before 9 o'clock, because they weren't kidding. I don't get there.
But
I've
there's a
heard tale
method
of
to that.
this.
There was a method to that,
There's a
and it
method.
was you.
And sometimes he really doesn't get there. I mean, in my younger days, and I could, recover
want
from
it-
it better, but he did have to start the show on his phone
In the
on
car.
I-85 with his piece of paper in front of him as he's coming up towards University Place and exiting and doing the open. And somebody, had the door open for him so he could breeze right in the door, put the phone down, get on the mic, and introduce the guest. So.
Wow.
They had landed a medevac copter on 85, so I wasn't late deliberately. But there is a method when we were doing it in the studio, I didn't want to be in the studio. I don't want to be with those people.
Wait for the rest
That
of the
didn't come out right. That didn't come out. I didn't want to be, because they're not radio people. They're nervous about being there, and they want to know what are you going to ask me? What's the first question? What are the first 5 questions? What are we going to do here? I don't want to talk about the show, because if I talk about the show's been done before we do it. And so I would always walk in as late as possible. But then it got to be, well, I don't have to get there until 8:58. And so I didn't.
Oh, wow.
I've had Mike's cell number memorized even when you don't have to have people's cell numbers memorized. I can tell you right now what it is without having to look at it. Because I've had to call him many times. It's 8:55. I mean, even now when he does it from home and on Zoom, I'm like, you gonna join?
Yeah.
Although recently, because we do it on Zoom now, because since the pandemic, we can't get guests in remote cities to go to studios anymore, so they have to be on Zoom. Anyway, what was I going to say? Shit.
So you can do it from your home.
I lost you one time on the board. The live, talk about having a live show. Mike's internet connection, Spectrum just thought it was a great time, the 9 o'clock hour, to do work on Mike's Spectrum connection, where that's how we had him through the line on the internet. And running the board, and there goes the host. There goes the host of the show. He's gone. There's several minutes left in the hour. We're talking to the police chief, I believe, Johnny Jennings.
I remember.
And here comes little old me on the board. Excuse me, Chief, I'm so sorry. We seem to have lost the host. Thank you for being with us, and we hope to talk with you again soon. This has been Charlotte Talks on WFAE, and thank you for listening. Up comes the music. Yeah, it doesn't get scarier than that. The heart is a thumping when you lose the host of the live show.
Yeah.
And we have figured out how we can get Mike on the phone and on the air via the phone if there are technical problems within about 20 seconds. So if we can vamp for 20 seconds,
Which we had to do recently.
Recently,
Mike was
yes.
holding the phone so he could hear the guests, because I don't remember exactly why, but there was a while where Mike could not hear the guests talking. Everybody else could hear the guests. The listener could hear the guests. The one person who kind of needed to hear them couldn't. So he is physically on the phone, holding it up to his ear and talking to the guests. And I think there was a slight delay, or there was an echo, and it's always something.
Yeah. I also wanted to ask you, Mike, so a couple of people have brought up tonight how Charlotte Talks is this place for civil dialogue. It's a place where we can have conversations about what's going on in the world, and we can do it with different viewpoints. One of the things that I've always really admired about you is that you will push back on some guests and press some guests for answers when maybe they're not giving it. And I wanted to ask how you think about that, when do you do it, and is there a right or a wrong way to do it?
I do it as it's NPR. It's not confrontational. But if you have somebody on and you have them on for a reason and they know why they're there and then they won't answer the question, that little kind of ticks me off. So I will ask it, and I will ask it more firmly. And then every once in a while I have been frustrated to say, you're not answering my question. That's a very nice answer, but that's not what I asked. I think I'll push it to a point. And then they've answered the question by not answering the question. They've hung themselves by their own petard. I just think, particularly people in public office, should be answering the questions that the listeners want the answers to.
Yeah.
And because I have done this show for 25 years, and because I did similar shows on television and radio in the past elsewhere, I've recognized a pattern in politicians where they become very adroit in not answering the questions. Then don't run for office.
All right,
That's my inner monologue. I would never say it on the air, but that's my inner monologue. That's what I'm thinking. Don't run for office if you don't want to answer these questions.
All right, I'm good. I want to be mindful of time, so I've got one last question for you, Mike, and then, and then I was hoping afterwards.
These people paid a lot of money.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. I've got one last question. And actually, I was thinking if we have a little bit of time just to play a quick game with all of you since we're all here. But first, this is my last question for you, Mike. It's been 25 years. This is your 25th anniversary. What keeps you coming back to work for 25 years?
Well, because I'm 27.
Oh, yeah, okay.
and I have to pay the mortgage. I enjoy the work. I love the best hour of my day is 9 o'clock. I've done this. I've wanted to do this since I was 5. I mean, nobody in this room remembers Arthur Godfrey.
Well, no.
Except Chris. But when I was 5, my parents gave me a record player, and Arthur Godfrey used to do his radio show on television. So he would wear headphones, and he would have a microphone. And I would put my little record player on, and I would put earmuffs on, and walk around with the vacuum cleaner cord, and pretend that I was on TV and radio. I've wanted to do this since I can remember. I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry. It's a privilege. I'm an old-time broadcaster, so to me it's a sacred honor. I'm very protective of the listener's time. I'm very protective of the guest's time. I want to make the best use out of all of that because we only have an hour. And that's the best hour of my day because I know how to do that. I can't hammer a nail, but by God, I know how to do that. And the preparation for it is onerous. I'll be honest. There are days when I want to blow my brains out. But 9 o'clock, it's there every 24 hours. So I love that. That's what keeps me. And I get to work with people who have really done yeoman's work for very little money, very little thanks, because they're not the ones behind the microphone who says, I'm Mike Collins every day, and who care. They care about the show, they care about the audience, they care about the station, they care about the city, and that is what makes it worthwhile.
Yeah, well said. Okay, so since we have all of you gathered here today, and we actually have an audience that can see us for once, I thought it would be really fun to play just a quick game with everyone here. I don't know what this is actually called in real life.
Win and win big.
But it's, what was that?
Win and win big.
Maybe we could call it that. I'm going to call this superlatives. I don't know if this is the actual name, but this is the way this would work. For an example, I'm going to say a superlative such as most likely to have the biggest collection of tote bags. And you all have to point at who you think that, best describes.
Up here or
up here?
Up
here, up here. Do you guys want to do a practice real quick and I'll say go? And we're going to do them rapid fire.
Okay.
Oh my.
So,
okay.
I don't know, most likely to have the most tote bags? Go.
Sarah?
Oh, Chris.
No,
I was going to
you.
say coffee mugs, definitely Chris.
Coffee mugs, maybe?
Coffee mugs are me.
Coffee mugs?
Chris,
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
tote bags.
Oh, maybe tote bags. How many tote bags do you have?
I do. Me?
I don't.
Okay.
We're going on assumptions.
All right.
Give those back. We need to give those to listeners.
They cost $10,000.
All right, well, that was practice. That was practice round, but these are for real. Okay. Most likely to come in just under the deadline. Go. Yeah, we established that one, I think. Most likely to say they actually enjoy the fund drive. Go.
Wendy?
I
kind of do. Yeah.
You do?
I kind of. Yeah. I love it.
Next Tuesday.
It's coming up next week. Most likely to donate their car to public radio.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
Go. Anyone?
We all need them.
Yeah, we need their
No,
cars.
I'll donate it if they finish paying for it.
Okay. There you go. Most likely to say the coolest under pressure. Go.
Aw.
Really?
Yeah? Okay, all right. Most likely to save the day. Interpret that as you will. Oh, Aaron, okay. Best dressed, even though it's radio.
Mike. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Those shoes are
He's got to be
shine on
fashion.
those.
Okay, and our last one. Most likely to make it 25 years as a superstar host. All right. So please give it up one more time for Mike Collins and the staff. Yeah. And yeah, I was going to say, because I know we've been throwing a lot at you, Mike, so if you want to throw anything at us, you're welcome
Yeah,
to.
well, first of all, I want to thank all of you, and particularly the people who don't work with us anymore, for coming back here and being part of this. And you have a long drive ahead of you, so we should let you go now. And thank you for listening. Thank you for caring enough about public radio and the kinds of things that we try to do every day, not just on Charlotte Talks, but on all of our programming. Thank you. Thank you for your membership. Thank you for spending $125 to be here tonight. And we hope we made it worth your while. And I got to thank they didn't tell me a thing about this evening. Not a thing. They just told me it would be a night to remember, which was the name of a Titanic movie. and they put us over here in this box that they lit in a theater called the Booth Playhouse. The only theater in the country named after a presidential assassin. And that's the box, if I'm not mistaken. But I also want to thank the cast of Charlotte and the band, some of the band members from Charlotte Squawks.
Yes.
What amazed me about that is they actually rehearsed, which is something we don't do for the show. And it was a great surprise because I didn't know exactly who was going to take part in that. And people who came back who were no longer cast members, they're longtime cast members, to do this. And I begged some of those people to come back, and they won't do it. And we pay, but not here tonight. So from now on, Charlotte Squawks isn't going to pay the actor. Because then I can get anybody I want. But thank you. I think you're up. Is that you up there? I think that's, thank you so much. It was. It meant a lot to me. Thank you. So that's it.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Mike.
That's all I got. We didn't pay the bill?
Nick, Mike, all of the panelists, thank you so much. Give them a round of applause again. While they are making their way back to their seats, again, we thank you for taking time to be with us this evening. We know that you could have been anywhere else, but I think this was the right place at the right time for the right purpose. We know that you were keeping this under wraps. You didn't share a lot, and I was so glad to hear what Mike said, and I really appreciate him getting emotional with us. Full transparency about how he feels and the reason why he's done it for 25 years, and I can only hope that we could have him for another 25 years to come. So, Mike, again, congratulations. Has he made it to his seat yet? So, Mike, before we bring this to a close, we would like to share a few words from people around the city that really feel that you are graciously important to us in Charlotte and to the radio. Let's roll the video.
Congratulations to Mike Collins and WFAE for 25 years of community service.
Congratulations, Mike. It's been a great run, 25 years. Let's do it again with the next book.
Mike Collins, and there are a few other hosts too, but congratulations on really bringing the world to Charlotte, helping showcase what's going on, engaging citizens, and hanging in there for 25 years. You don't look that old.
Congratulations, Mike, on 25 solid years. And we hope, I'm not sure I'm going to be around, but we hope to see at least 25 more.
Congratulations, Charlotte Talks. I'll be listening to you.
From the entire team at Blumenthal Performing Arts, we want to say congratulations, well done to the entire team at WFAE on 25 great years of Charlotte Talks.
Mike Collins. I thought I was here for Mike McKay. Mike Collins, I can't get him out of my life. Mike Collins, the mayor's staff used to always say, Mayor, don't go on the Mike Collins show, Charlotte Talks. He's going to kill you. The light rail's overrun. It's too much money. It's not going to work. Avoid Mike Collins. I said, he actually does his homework. It's a challenge. I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Mike Collins. And then when I was governor, my security would say, don't go on the Mike Collins show. You're getting all these threats. There's a window right there on 2nd Street or 3rd Street. We're going to need to close down the street. I go, it's frickin' Mike Collins, we gotta do it. But the worst was Charlotte frickin' Squawks. Charlotte Squawks. Not only could Mike Collins be good on radio, but he was a song and dance guy. Well, I kind of had to show off his talent. So he calls me up and says, hey, will you do a little video? So we did some videos where I had total control. But then he approached me and said, hey, McCrory, Governor, I've got this video that I want you to do where you pretend to be Matthew McConaughey. Lincoln, driving a Lincoln along the toll lane. I did it because it was frickin' Mike Collins. Yeah, it was funny. I lost the election by, 10,000 votes? I lost 30,000 votes because of that toll lane in Huntersville? Yeah, it was funny, Mike. Mike Collins, happy 25th. Congratulations.
Mike, were you able to see the video? Don't know if he was, but just to give you the names of those again: Malcolm, Jennifer, Kathy, Tom, Hugh, Harvey, and Pat. Say congratulations to you and hope for another 25 years. Again, congratulations to Charlotte Talks for 25 years. WFAE is making a difference to over 200,000 listeners per week. But we got to keep the doors open. We got to keep the wheels moving. And we got to keep Mike Collins as long as we can. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eden to tell you how we can make sure that happens.
Hello, my name is Eden GoBuddy, and I have the best job ever of speaking to the fans of the incredible WFAE content team every single day. I know that many of you are generous supporters to WFAE, and we are so appreciative, and we truly could not make the journalism that informs, enriches, and inspires without your support. We are so grateful that you are all here celebrating with us tonight. We need to make sure that Charlotte Talks continues for another 25 years, right? So I just want to remind you that you make the difference in public radio, that you are the public in public radio, and that WFAE exists to serve you and with your support. There is a QR code on the back of your program. If you feel so inclined as to make a gift in honor of Mike, in honor of our amazing content team and the folks who make sure that the radio that you love is on the air every single day, we would be so appreciative. And also, please tell your friends. We know that there are more people that love Charlotte, that love the the news, that love learning, that love intellectualism, who aren't yet listening to WFAE or who aren't yet members. And so thank you for being our champion and for telling your friends and family that they need to support WFAE and join you in doing so. Thank you so much. Oh. And before I pass the mic, can we get a round of applause for Frenchie, please?
Thank you so much, Eden. You heard her tell you, tell a friend, 9 o'clock a.m., that's when they can hear Mike. Before we give you back the evening, there will be a reception directly afterwards, but I again want to just recognize our sponsors for the evening who made this possible. Bank of America as the presenting sponsor. Our associate sponsors, Fletcher School, UNC Nutrition Institute, James McElroy and Dell, Mazda of South Charlotte, the Mint Museum. WFAE's primary listener is funded for real and would not be able to achieve their important work without listeners, advocates, and donors and sustaining members like each of you. On behalf of WFAE, Charlotte Talks 25 years, thank you, and we look forward to seeing you next year.